Welcome to This Explainer. We're getting right into the fascinating science of ADHD today. And look, we're not just talking theory. We're building a practical, empowering toolkit straight from clinical experts. Whether you have ADHD yourself, think you might, or you're just trying to support someone who does, we're going to look right under the hood at how the ADHD brain actually works. And honestly, more importantly, we're going to talk about how to work with it instead of constantly fighting against it. Okay, here's our roadmap. First, what actually is ADHD? 2, we'll peek inside the brain's wiring. 3, we'll tackle that notorious motivation struggle. 4, clinical care and management. And finally, number 5, the fun stuff, brain-based productivity hacks. Let's jump in. Section 1, what is ADHD? A brain difference. If you take literally anything away from this entire explainer, please let it be this quote from psychiatrist Dr. Tracy Marks. She says, "It's not lazy, it's a brain problem." So often people who struggle to just follow through on basic tasks get slapped with the unreliable or lazy label. But as we're going to see, the friction they're feeling, it's rooted in pure biology, not a flaw in their character. The Cleveland Clinic officially defines ADHD as a neurodevelopmental disorder. That means it affects how the brain develops, it's driven by a mix of genetics and the environment, and symptoms start before age 12. But I want you to look really closely at the second half of that definition. It's a brain difference, not a deficit, which is kind of ironic since the word deficit is literally right there in the name of the condition. People with ADHD don't actually lack attention, they just have a really, really hard time directing it. And it's super fascinating to see how the 4 distinct types of diagnoses break down, because it proves this condition looks very different from person to person. First, you've got inattentive, where the struggle is mostly with focus and organization. Then hyperactive impulsive, that's your excess energy acting without thinking. The combined type is actually the most common, mashing up symptoms of both. And finally, unspecified. That's for severe symptoms that totally disrupt a person's life, but just don't neatly fit into those official criteria boxes. So it's an incredibly individualized experience. Section 2, inside the ADHD brain, dopamine and attention. Okay, there is a really crucial concept we've got to understand here. The difference between directed attention and automatic attention. The frontal lobe of an ADHD brain is wired so that directed attention, forcing yourself to focus on something super boring like doing your taxes or putting away the laundry, drains a massive amount of energy. But on the flip side, their automatic attention is off the charts. When an ADHD brain finds something genuinely interesting, it locks into what we call hyperfocus. They can just get in the zone and work completely effortlessly for hours. So, what's happening chemically? Well, it all comes down to 2 dopamine messaging pathways. And dopamine, remember, is the brain's chemical signal for reward and motivation. The mesolimbic pathway processes emotional memory and pleasure. Think eating a piece of chocolate or getting a really nice compliment. But your mesocortical pathway travels straight to your prefrontal cortex. That's the control center for executive functions, working memory, and crucially, your motivation to complete hard tasks. In an ADHD brain, that system is impaired. Dr. Marks describes it perfectly. She notes that ADHD essentially creates a massive supply chain shortage of dopamine transport proteins. You literally just do not get the proper chemical signals to reinforce positive, productive behaviors. And without that satisfying dopamine payoff, your efforts feel totally pointless and your motivation just completely plummets. Section 3, the motivation struggle. Why we procrastinate. And that supply chain shortage brings us to a massive everyday question. Why do we procrastinate? Seriously, why does it sometimes feel physically painful to start a task that seems so incredibly basic? The answer lies in what cognitive behavior therapy calls aversive tasks. We naturally avoid these because the ADHD brain looks at them and perceives way too many steps, or that they're painfully boring, or they're just going to take forever. When your brain is already starving for dopamine, staring down a boring project like Mount Washmore, that giant pile of unfolded laundry on your chair, feels like staring up at a literal mountain when you have 0 climbing gear. Your brain just says, yeah, no thanks, and goes looking for something more immediately rewarding. Section 4, clinical care and management, treatment protocols. So how do we actually treat this medically and behaviorally? Well, a comprehensive plan is never one size fits all, but it usually combines a few vital interventions. For kids, parent training is absolutely huge, helping families build predictable routines and really lean into positive reinforcement. There are also social skills training groups and, importantly, medications or pharmacotherapy. Stimulant medications actually go to work directly on that mesocortical pathway we discussed earlier. They effectively bump up the dopamine supply so a person can finally access that directed attention. Section 5. Brain-based productivity hacks. Everyday strategies. Now for the really empowering part. If your brain is experiencing a dopamine shortage, you can actively hack the system. You just have to artificially inject your tasks with 4 key dopamine drivers: interest, urgency, challenge, and novelty. If a task is missing these, the ADHD brain flat out rejects it. So your job is to engineer your environment to add them back in. Let's look at a totally actionable framework for this. This is the Pomodoro Technique, and it is absolutely brilliant for ADHD because it injects both challenge and a strict manageable time limit into a dreaded task. You just work for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break, repeat that cycle 4 times, and then take a nice long 30-minute break. By turning your boring work into a literal race against a ticking timer, you create instant urgency, which tricks your brain into finding the motivation to actually start. You can also completely level up your environment to modify how you tackle the work. Have you ever heard of body doubling? It's exactly what it sounds like. Working alongside someone else, even if it's just over a video call. Their presence alone adds accountability and interest. You can also inject novelty just by grabbing your laptop and heading to a cozy coffee shop or your back deck. Or try pairing a miserable chore with a guaranteed reward. Like you're only allowed to watch your favorite show while you fold that laundry mountain. It's essentially taking bad-tasting medicine with a giant spoonful of sugar. Finally, let's talk planning. To prevent the ADHD brain from just reacting to whatever happens to be the loudest thing in the room, you can use the Stephen Covey matrix to map tasks by urgency and importance. You see, the ADHD brain loves to chase those not important but urgent things, like a random last-minute text from a friend, because, hey, quick dopamine hit. But by visually mapping out what actually matters versus what is just a shiny distraction, you can structurally force your attention where it really needs to be. I want to leave you with a final thought to spark your curiosity. Instead of constantly fighting your brain and beating yourself up for a lack of motivation, how can you engineer your day to trigger your own unique hyperfocus? ADHD is a brain difference, for sure, but by intentionally leveraging urgency, novelty, and your incredible automatic attention, it can absolutely become your greatest asset. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and we'll see you next time.